Hi, lovely doves. Rita Michelle here with Organic Mothering. Thanks for joining me again for another hashtag walkaway video. I hope you can hear the really loud bird chirping in the tree next to me. What a joyful sound. I think it's a baby bird that wants its mother. There's a nest nearby. Anyway, last video I mentioned that we would talk about feminism next. And I've taken a while to get to this because I've gone back and forth in my mind about how to approach the topic, and I realize that this is one of those multivalent topics with many different sides, angles, elements to it, and it's probably going to need more than one video to really cover this whole thing. And knowing when to start. Should I go clear back to, the suffragettes and Seneca Falls and the women's right to vote and do like a history or something? And go through the whole history of feminism. So that would have been the first wave. And then the second wave was the women's liberation movement of like the 1970s. And then when I got to be college age, late 80s, early 90s. So I went to Ohio State between 1987 and 1991. And like I talked about last time, that's when I first encountered the term political correctness, or PC. Oh, and I wanted to mention, I've been hearing a lot about social justice lately as I've been researching this stuff and social justice warriors. And I've realized that it's basically the revival of the political correctness that started back then. So I think that PC kind of waned for a while, like it had its heyday, then it kind of wasn't so necessary anymore, and then maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump's election blew it up again, and now it's to fight him, you got these social justice warriors. So it's just another version of political correctness as far as I can tell. But I kept hearing about social justice and not knowing what it was. And Dr. Taylor Marshall and Timothy Gordon on their YouTube show TNT, we're always talking about social justice and how it's redundant because all justice is social. So these guys are philosophers. I wouldn't, normally think about things that deeply probably, but it does make sense. Their theory is that putting social in front of justice is being purposely redundant. It's just a way to get socialism into the mix. And that's possible. I don't know. But with feminism, I decided, since I shared about college last time, I'll start there again and share about a class that I took in college that I consider kind of my formal introduction into feminism. And I want to say from the start that I think that there are good aspects to feminism and that there have been many good intentions behind it, that it has had some good fruit, but that unfortunately what it ended up being is it's the excuse now for the abortion epidemic all around the world. But if we focus just on the US, it has become the battle cry. Because here's the thing. As the left has moved more and more extremely to that side, the Democratic Party has moved more and more to the left, they've had to keep people in a mindset of victimhood. They've had to continue to run this narrative. And this is what Brandon Straka has talked a lot about with the Walkaway campaign. That, and Milo Yiannopoulos has brought the same thing up, that these things like the feminist movement were necessary in some ways in the beginning, but then in the US they become obsolete. They're not really necessary anymore. But in order to keep your vote, you have to be put into a victim class. So victims are basically anyone that's not a straight white male, unless of course you're straight white disabled male. Then you can claim victimhood at that point. But otherwise, everybody else is a victim except for straight white males. So women are still victims. And abortion became the vehicle by which women were trapped into victimhood mode. Because the narrative goes, either a woman has complete control over her body, or men are going to control women's bodies again. Women are going to become the property of men again. Women are going to be thrown back 100 years, or possibly back to caveman days, where women were purportedly drug around by their hair. If you grew up with Fred Flintstone, you know of what I speak. Okay, so women have to keep fighting for something. So this is the ticket. This is how the Democratic Party can keep women in a mindset of victimhood and in a minority status, because they argue they're the only ones that are going to help women and protect them from monsters like Donald Trump and other straight white, men, and Christian. That makes you even worse. If you were a straight white Muslim man, see, you'd have an edge like the disabled guy has. So women have to be kept in this mindset, this paradigm, that we are still not equal, and that unless we have access at any point in pregnancy and for any reason, unless we have 100% access, no questions asked, and we should be able to do it guilt-free, unless we have these abortion rights, because it's, remember, like I said before, it's not really pro-choice anymore. It's all about abortion rights, because unless you have that 100% access for any reason at any time during the pregnancy, you are going to lose all of your rights as a woman. Okay, if you don't hold on to that, all hell will break loose. You'll be sent back to caveman times. And this is the only way now to do it. So you women need the Democratic Party to protect your right to kill your child. And the man has nothing to do with it. Even though, even if a child were part of a woman's body, which it's not, it's its own body, you'd have to say it's also the man's body, because that child has the man's DNA. So if the child is the woman's body, the child is also the man's body. Okay. Well, we'll talk more about that stuff later. I want to share my college story, because by and large, it's a positive story. I took a women's communication class at Ohio State, and the teacher was cool. She was really nice. And I'm not sure if it was actually a women's studies class or a communication class per se. But we did have plenty of men in the class, and I think I heard that it was required. They had to take it as one of their electives. They had to take some kind of women's studies class, which is kind of funny, because I don't think women were required to take women's studies classes, and I didn't really understand what women's studies was, or why you would need to major in studying women. I didn't really get it. But at any rate, 3 specific things stand out in my memory all those years ago, decades ago, about that class. One was that the professor illustrated that there are more negative terms used towards women than there are towards men. And I think this is absolutely true, probably even today. And I myself, have been a victim of some of those nasty terms being hurled at me. And so, she was trying to demonstrate that there is a misogyny in the culture, a woman-hating, and that it can be demonstrated by the fact that in the English language, it is biased. The English language is biased toward men and men's experiences, and negatively toward women, with the kind of vocabulary that is used to insult women, deride women, put them down, and verbally abuse them with. Okay? And then we had this really funny assignment where we broke up into groups. And my group was all women in the group. And we were to come up with a vocabulary word that would describe specific women's experiences. Life experiences women have that men don't share and men can't really relate to. So this brilliant woman in my group came up with gynescoot. 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 All right. Every woman in the class just cracked up laughing. I mean, it was like this uproarious laughter, and every guy was sitting there looking a little scared in stunned silence. No idea what gynescoot could possibly mean. If you're a woman, I don't have to define that for you. That was the thing. Okay, so that was just really cool, because it's like, yeah, women are different from men. Women have experiences that men don't have, and these are marginalized. These experiences are not really valued, maybe, the uniqueness of women. Okay, now there's kind of a contradiction that goes along with this, though, illustrated by the next example. So back then, between 87 and 91, we had chalkboards were still used in education. I don't know if they're used much today. I've heard like the kids in pre-college are using Chromebooks mostly. They don't use much paper and pencils anymore. I don't know on the college level, like some of the really huge classes that I took at Ohio State, like theater with 700 people, she used an overhead projector. But a lot of them just used chalkboard. And she did 2 columns, like on the chalkboard, and it was men's characteristics and women's characteristics. And so take, for example, physical strength. So a man, generally speaking, is physically stronger than a woman. He has greater muscular strength. However, the teacher said women are actually constitutionally stronger, which means they're like healthier and live longer, fight disease better. So, and in some cases, women actually are physically stronger. Like some women are physically stronger than some men, even though generally speaking, men have stronger muscles, bigger muscles, stronger muscles. Women have more percentage of fat in their bodies. These are just facts of physical difference. But I have a bodybuilder, female cousin. She's a professional bodybuilder, and I'm sure she's definitely stronger than some men, no question. So I thought that was pretty cool. Well, women live longer. Women are constitutionally stronger. Like heart disease used to be a men's disease. It was the number 1 killer of men. Now, I meant to look up the statistics before I did this video, but I'll just have to, what I'll do is I'll just bring them up again to kind of go down that road and that part of this discussion another time. Because here's another thing I want to talk about. The overlapping of feminism with a lot of these other elements. I talked about the mosaic and how each little colored tile doesn't show you what the whole picture is going to look like. If you're too close, all you see is these little colored tiles. You have to stand back and look at the whole thing. So feminism has many facets, and it's connected to other issues. So I'll be doing more than one video on feminism, and it's going to kind of cross over with other things. So I'll get back to like the differences between men and women as another part of feminism. But at the time, women were constitutionally stronger than men. I don't know if that's true anymore, because women took on stresses that by and large only men had, like being the primary breadwinner of the family, working in corporate America and trying to scratch and climb their way up the corporate ladder, working 60, 80 hours a week in very demanding competitive positions. The stress of trying to be like men, I think, has actually closed that gap. And so what was positive for women, what was a strength, I think heart disease kills as many women as it does men now. So we've lost an edge that we had. Okay, so just kind of like hold that thought for future discussion. Another comparison was hormones, because women were always kind of like, jokingly, but in half seriousness, talked about as emotional. Women used to be called hysterical, a word that came from, that we have the uterus, and you have to have a hysterectomy. Like, sometimes I think hysterectomies were performed on women to try to help them with mental problems or something. So women were considered emotionally unstable, hysterical, and having these kind of like out of control hormones because of our periods. Well, as it turns out, whereas women's hormones fluctuate on a monthly course, through a monthly cycle, men's hormones fluctuate daily. And that was one of those aha moments for me. Because, haven't you seen a man like just go Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde? Like, women, pretty much throughout the day, you're in the same mood throughout the day. I have seen men just one mood, 2 hours later, completely different mood. And so it actually helped me understand men better. Well, men have hormone imbalances too. Maybe we shouldn't even call them imbalances, just fluctuations. The men's are daily, women's are monthly. So that made more sense, and it helps to kind of take that stigma away from women being the hormonal, emotional people, as opposed to men's being reasonable and logical. But the thing is, those differences are not entirely untrue. It's just that now, these comparisons the professor was making were to help showcase the positive side of some of these stereotypes of women, or these characteristics of women. And then what was the other one? Well, there was one thing that was interesting, like how couples sort of balance power. Okay, so men having more money, historically, they had more power because they were the ones who earned money or inherited money, generally. But women have other kinds of power. So that's why, so the stereotype of an older man who's got money, and he marries a much younger, very attractive woman. And you say, well, she just married him for his money. But this is how power is sometimes balanced. The woman has just as much power, it's just a different kind of power. So, she can attract the man with money, and the man with money can attract her. All right, there were some other things with this chart showing the differences between men and women, but how the differences turn out to be not so great, and that men and women are pretty similar. It's just a matter of perspective. It's just a matter of how you look at these things. Okay, so here's our contradiction. So the chart on the board was telling us how men and women are actually not that different. We're pretty much the same in a lot of ways. There are, some differences, but, men are not really stronger than women. Women are not really more hormonal than men. Things just operate a little bit differently between the two sexes. So that was by and large a positive thing, except that the experiment where we came up with language, with vocabulary to describe particularly women's experiences, is to celebrate the differences, to highlight the differences, right? And women's uniqueness. But then on the other hand, we want to narrow those differences. We want to maybe even blot them completely out and say that biology is nothing. Biology means nothing. So there's like kind of my introduction to feminism, that there was already a contradiction there. There's already this desire to be like men, but yet to say, well, we're a marginalized group. We are a minority that's mistreated. We're not, the same as men. We're not treated equally. And you have to stay in that victim role in order for there to be a reason to vote Democrat, according to the Democrats themselves, because they're the only ones that are going to take care of these social injustices. All right? They are the social justice warriors. And they've used political correctness to keep people in line and to silence conservative views. So if you're, well, I don't want to get into whole, everything to do with feminism today, but I want to just leave you with a thought, a new idea that I only encountered since I became Catholic. I started studying Catholicism in 2011, became interested in it, came officially into the church in the spring vigil of 2013, or the Easter vigil. So in the spring of 2013, I became officially Catholic. And what I understand is that the church teaches that men and women are made equal in likeness in the image of God. Okay? We are of equal human dignity, made equally in the image and likeness of God, but that we are not the same. And here's a problem with language that's being used politically, is everyone's supposed to be equal, and that means everyone's the same. Except that equality doesn't mean sameness, and everybody can't be equal. Not only can't everyone be the same, but everyone actually can't be equal. So we'll get into that another time too. So the only way that we are equal is in human dignity. That is the base of our worth as human beings, is that we are created in the image and likeness of God. That's where our human dignity comes from. That's its origin. And women and men are made with complementary roles. That's the thing I've learned from Catholicism, is that we don't have to be the same. We're already equal. But that we have complementary roles, and that men are happiest, women are happiest, children are happiest, and society thrives best when men and women are together in those complementary roles. Not when they're fighting, all right, to be equal and the same in every way. So hold that thought, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Again, Rita Michelle with Organic Mothering. Bye, doves.